Hello! In this CMMI Tech Talk, we are going to review the Process Quality Assurance practice area, PQA. We will discuss the intent of this practice area and look at what value it can provide to an organization, as well as looking at the individual practices to see how they can be used to improve the quality of an organization's processes. Quality is one of the classic constraints that needs to be considered when managing a project. As well as the big three of time, cost, and scope, the ability to deliver a project to an acceptable level of quality is essential to the success of the project and the long-term future of the business. The Process Quality Assurance (PQA) practice area is one of 4 practice areas within the Ensuring Quality capability area, which is in the Doing category. The Ensuring Quality capability area contains practice areas that look at the subject of quality from many different viewpoints. Process Quality Assurance, PQA, as the name suggests, is concerned with the quality of the processes employed within an organization. We shall start our tour by looking at the key mandatory model components, the intent and value statements. Intent verifies and enables improvement of the quality of the processes performed and resulting work products. Value increases the consistent use and improvement of the processes to maximize business benefit and customer satisfaction. Notice that the intent statement has 2 main parts. First, it is concerned with verifying the quality of the process as performed and any resulting work products is as expected. It is a basic principle of process management that if we have an established and capable process and we follow it fully, we should normally end up with a product of an acceptable level of quality. By way of an example, consider a modern production line for a car manufacturer. These production lines are highly automated and extremely efficient. Provided the quality of the raw materials feeding into the assembly line are acceptable and all parts of the assembly process are performed as expected into the required level of quality, then a new car with very little deviation in its overall build quality should roll off the production line every minute or so. However, if any step in the assembly process is not followed or goes wrong, there is a high likelihood the resulting car being of an unacceptable quality and possibly even being dangerous. The same principle applies to the steps of software development or a service delivery process. For example, if we do not adequately validate our requirements before agreeing to them, the customer may end up with a product they cannot use or receive an unacceptable level of service that does not meet their business needs. The second part of the intent statement says that by looking at the quality of a performed process, we can start to identify ways of improving it. Process optimization is an extremely important part of this practice area. By looking at the performed processes and identifying emerging issues, we should be able to isolate areas within our processes that need improvement and optimize them. Improving our processes can yield huge advantages not just to our own organization, but also to our customers, who may benefit from this increased efficiency through lower costs and better quality products and services. Note, both the intent and value statements are looking at the quality of processes. The practices of Process Quality Assurance (PQA) practice area go up to Practice Group Level 3 and reflect the expected evolutionary progression towards increasing capability. Starting at Level 1, where we are simply directed to identify and address quality issues with processes and work products. At Level 2, Process Quality Assurance becomes more of a planned and managed activity where we establish an overall quality approach, conduct activities to implement this approach, identify and resolve quality issues, and maintain records relating to them. At level 3, we then start to think about improving our processes by feeding issues identified during quality assurance activities back into our processes. Let us turn now to the individual practices within the PQA practice area. PQA 1.1 is a simple, basic practice that directs us to identify process and work product issues and do something about them. The practice statement is quite open-ended and gives no specific direction as to how or when quality issues are to be identified. This is quite a typical level 1 practice, which is steering us towards the desired behavior without being overly prescriptive. One thing to note is that although the practice area is focusing on process quality assurance, this practice includes within its direction to look at work product issues. Work products are the consequence of following a process. If we detect quality issues with work products, then it is possible the process which gave rise to those work products may have issues which need to be addressed. Hence, we can uncover process quality issues not only by looking at how well the process has been performed, but also by looking at the results of performing that process. PQA 2.1 immediately steers us towards a more level 2 style of process. It calls for us to develop, keep updated, and follow a quality assurance approach and plan based on historical data. The somewhat ad hoc approach of level 1 has now been refined through the inclusion of a planned and managed approach towards the quality assurance of project processes. Now, we need to think about what activities we intend to carry out and when to capture these in a specific plan. The reference to historical data is an important part of this practice. In practice, the level of quality assurance activities that an organization can adequately resource is likely to be limited, so we need to ensure that we are planning their use in the most effective manner. This means we need to consider, for example, areas of our processes which have been historically problematic or where there is a higher degree of perceived risk and target our efforts there. For example, a development organization that has determined a high percentage of defects that evade detection until late in the development cycle originated in the design phase might choose to focus a substantial proportion of their process quality resources around design review activities to ensure the process is properly followed and to identify areas for potential improvement. Similarly, a service provider which discovers a high percentage of service incidents are being escalated to level 2 support when they could have been addressed adequately at level 1 might choose to focus their process QA around the level 1 incident handling processes to see if there is a systemic process issue that can be addressed. If we are working in a development organization, our process quality assurance plans would typically reflect the phases of the development cycle, be it agile or waterfall in nature, and the perceived level of risk associated with each phase in the final product. In a service organization, there will likely still be a similar developmental quality assurance plan as the organization sets up the service system to deliver the required services. But once they are live, quality assurance planning is likely to be more continuous and reactive, looking at how the service delivery meets the agreed quality criteria and service levels, and tailoring quality assurance activities accordingly. Process quality assurance typically revolves around confirming the existing processes are being followed and the resulting work products meet all applicable standards and product requirements. This type of activity, where we are looking at whether an existing process is being followed correctly, is often termed an audit, although other techniques and approaches can be used. PQA 2.2 essentially looks for us to perform audits or comparable activities on selected processes and work products. Note the use of the word selected in this case. As we have already discussed, resources are likely to limit the extent to which we can perform quality assurance activities, so we need to ensure that we select those processes and work products which are likely to give us the most benefit. When we perform audits and related quality assurance activities, we are usually comparing a performed process or work product to a specific defined process or product description. Any issues we uncover will therefore usually be areas where we have identified an issue of non-compliance. PQA 2.3 calls for us to communicate these non-compliance issues to stakeholders and then ensure we resolve them. Note that usually resolving a non-compliance would involve fixing the issue. However, there may be circumstances where we may be prepared to live with it. For example, if the impact is low and the incurred delay in fixing it is high. Hence, resolving a non-compliance might also involve seeking and agreeing to a waiver to formally indicate we are prepared to let the issue go uncorrected, for the time being at least. A non-compliance issue could also highlight areas where our processes are not performing as we expect or want them to. In effect, the non-compliance is due to an incorrect process rather than an actual problem with the resulting work product, so resolving a non-compliance could involve changing the process. PQA 2.4 follows on from the previous practice and calls for the results of quality assurance activities to be captured and used to inform future quality assurance approaches. This links back directly to the PQA 2.1 practice, in which our quality assurance approach should be based on historical data. When we move to the Level 3 practice, we take a more holistic approach to resolving quality assurance issues. In PQA 2.3, we are expected to resolve specific non-compliance issues, but recognize that one way of addressing certain issues might be to change the process. In PQA 3.1, we pick this idea up again. By identifying issues within the underlying processes that may have resulted in a non-compliance, and then identifying actions to improve the processes, we try to ensure that systemic issues are addressed. In this way, we improve the organization's processes, not just individual projects. These then are the practices of the Process Quality Assurance Practice Area, the PQA. To summarize the main points, PQA covers capturing and addressing process and work product issues through audits and other types of activity. Planning quality assurance activities using historical data to ensure effective and efficient use of resources. Communicating the status of non-compliance issues and ensuring their closure. And identifying possible opportunities to improve our processes by analyzing QA non-compliance issues. Thank you for joining us for this CMMI Tech Talk. If you have questions, please contact us at support.isaca.org.